All right, hello everyone. Thank you for coming. We'll get started in a bit. All right, guys, we're gonna start in a minute. Either 1 minute or until P shows up. So yeah, let's go. All right, hello everyone. Let's get the workshop started. Thank you all for coming. And as you guys know, this workshop is going to be about competitive programming and how it boosts your technical skills. So what is competitive programming? So in competitive programming, you're going to want to program a solution as fast as possible that runs efficiently and produces the correct results. Um, in this process, it's going to test your grit and challenge your problem-solving skills and creative thinking because you're going to want to have a creative solution to the problem for it to run fast and produce the correct results. And you're going to solve problems similar to those given at interviews for software engineer positions. So for companies, for big tech companies like Google, Amazon, and other companies like that, they'll use competitive programming problems or just coding problems in general to assess your programming skills. And on that note, I would like to introduce our experienced competitive programmer speaker here, Ryan. Ryan, you want to say
Hi.
hello?
Can you guys hear me?
Uh, Not really. Do you want to like move your mic closer a bit?
Can you guys hear me now?
Yeah, that's better.
Okay, so I'm Ryan. I've been doing competitive programming for around 2 years. And yeah,
Yeah. What about your achievements?
um, I'm currently in Usco Gold and I help manage content at Usco Guide.
Nice. All right. Um, so comparison to hackathons. As you guys know, Treasure Hacks is a hackathon hosting community, and hackathons are more real-world challenges, innovation, and its criteria mostly focuses on practicality, functionality, and creativity. And you're mostly focusing on ideation, collaboration, and building an app or something that actually works. Competitive programming mostly has problems that are short and puzzle-like. They mostly judge you on correctness, speed, and memory, and the main focus is problem solving. So they're two very different things, even though they both involve computer science. Um, it's just two different applications of computer science. So in programming competitions, usually a programming competition takes place over several hours, and it can be either online or in person. You'll have multiple problems, so you're given like a set of various problems that you'll have to solve, and they usually get harder as you go on. And it's a two-step process. So when you face a problem, you want to design an algorithm first and then implement it in your preferred programming language. All right. So during code evaluation, you first obviously submit your solution to the problem, um, and then it's gonna get evaluated. So depending on the language you use, it's gonna have different criteria. For example, like C++, you're usually given around 2 seconds, but for Python or any other slower language, you're given usually around twice that time, and usually it's up to 512 megabytes of memory, which is average. And then you'll get feedback, whether your test cases passed or failed, and obviously, as you see right here, the asterisk green means it's passed, and the X means it's the wrong answer. You can also get other errors like T for timeout and like I'm pretty sure it's F for no output. Okay. Um so competitive programming, it's not software development. So you don't have to maintain your code, and all you have to do is make sure it produces the correct answer and runs quickly and is implemented quickly since you're on a time crunch. Okay, Ryan, do you want to take it away from here?
Sure. Okay, so for like the big three events and organizations that do competitive programming, if you're a high school student in the US, then Usco is gonna be like your biggest competition, and they have contests during December, January, February, and March, each of which 4 to 5 hours, and you're given 3 problems to solve. And then for Meta Hacker Cup, this is a little bit different. So they have like a different input and output process, and then it's around 3 hours long. I believe the next contest is going to be around October 7th, so you should definitely try it out. And then for Code Forces, this is probably the most well known. Um, they have 2 hour contests most like every week or so. And then this is like if you ask somebody if they've ever done competitive programming, then they'll probably give you like their Code Forces profile.
All right. So more on Yusaku or Isako or whatever. Um, the tiers I believe are bronze, silver, gold, and platinum, right?
Yeah.
And then don't you like if you're high platinum by the end, don't you get invited into like a training camp for the IOI? Do you want to talk more on that?
So um the main purpose of USCO is to select competitors for the International Olympiad of Informatics, which is like a really big competition from like high school students around the world. And so USCO is split into like 4 tiers. And then if you're in platinum, which is like the highest tier, and you perform well, then they'll select around 30 people to go to your training camp in like somewhere in the US. And then from there, they'll choose 4 people to represent the country at the IOI.
Okay, yeah, that's really cool. Um, all right, on to online practice and training.
Okay, so these two are mainly the biggest resources for competitive programming, and LeetCode is more for like job interviews. So if you're like doing a technical interview at say like Google, for example, then LeetCode is more for like the problems that the interviewers might ask you. And if you're practicing for code forces or just like general competitive programming, then Usco Guide has like a really good roadmap from like bronze to like platinum material. And if you go to just like usco.guide, then everything is free and open source, and there's like a really good community behind it. So yeah.
Nice. Um, Other places you can learn competitive programming are like books, but that's pretty old-fashioned. But there's also like a lot of articles and just like a lot of free guides on different competitive programming concepts. For example, from W3 schools or from Geeks for Geeks. They all have like um, certain algorithms or data structures that are applicable to competitive programming. Anything else you would like to add, Ryan?
That's about it.
Okay, cool.
Okay, so benefits of competitive programming. So you might think that since you don't use competitive programming in like software engineering or anything, it's kind of useless. And that's also like a common take on like math competitions like the AMC. But the idea of competitive programming is that like it's more about problem solving and just like building like your computational thinking so that you can design more effective algorithms in the workplace. And so the main benefits are to refine critical thinking skills, writing efficient code, learning how to approach problems, and just like having like the mentality to solve problems, a computer science based environment.
Nice. And it also helps you perform better in technical interviews, given at big tech companies like Google and whatever. So yeah,
Okay, so getting started, if you go to useco.org, which is like their main website, they have a resources tab which has some guide articles and training that you can do. And for learning concepts, you can go to YouTube or Geeks for Geeks. They both have pretty good editorials on algorithms. And yeah, also there are like 3 main languages in competitive programming, and they are C++, Java, and Python. If you don't know any of these languages, then I suggest you start with C++ because it's the most used because of its speed. And in your normal day-to-day, you probably want to do at least a practice problem every single day to improve. And there are a bunch of topics in competitive programming. So you also want to get exposed to a lot of different algorithms and just like practice problem solving without knowing algorithm. Especially recently in like USCO Bronze, they're having a lot more like ad hoc problems, and those are problems which don't like refine to a certain algorithm, and you want to be able to like problem solve them without having like some format that you follow. And for learning algorithms, there are a lot of good classical problems on CSES, and those are great to learn algorithms.
Okay, so some example of classical problems are like the knapsack problem. I believe that's like the most well known, and that's like the only one that I know. Do you know any other classical problems?
Um, Generally, like in high divisions, there's like the point update range sum, which is like given an array, you want to like query a range and update points in like logarithmic time. And there are a bunch of other ones. So generally, like if you have like an algorithm such as like the segment tree or like um can't think of anything right now. But if you go in Disco Guide, then like for each module that they have, they'll have like a problem that you can just look at. And this is generally like a bare bones implementation of the algorithm.
Nice. Okay, and more comments about the language. So, I believe it's hard to progress beyond Musical Silver without C++. Is that correct?
Um I like you can definitely get to Platinum even camp with Java, but generally speaking, it's much easier to code in C++ because you don't have to like do that many optimizations on your code.
I see. And I heard it's basically impossible to progress beyond Musical Gold with Python, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure past like USCO Gold, they don't ensure that it's solvable with Python, or
Yeah.
it's like really hard. So
Yeah. So some of the problems aren't even solvable with Python. All right. Um, Obviously, you also need 200 IQ because you have to be the best of best. Anything you would like to add to that, Ryan?
um yeah. So um like competitive programming is a lot like studying for like the AMC or like a math competition, right? And so what you have is just like a bunch of techniques and you have a problem and you have to like reformat that into sub problems of things that you know how to solve already. And using that you can like actually solve the problem. So if you ever done like the AMC, it's a lot like that.
Yeah. And then 200 IQ because 200 IQ, yeah, 200 IQ makes you the best competitive programmer. Okay, and now we'll open up the floor to any questions you would like to ask either me or Ryan, or mostly Ryan. Um, okay, so if there's no questions from the audience, then I'll start with a few questions. Uh, Let me just pull up the questions. How do I pull up the questions? This is how I pull up the questions. Okay, so Ryan, how did you get into competitive programming?
Yeah, so in like my sixth grade year, I was like really bored over the summer, and I just watched like a bunch of YouTube videos about competitive programming. So I think one of the most popular is like William Lin. So I saw one of his videos and I was like, wow, that's really cool. And I just like started doing like hackwing problems.
Nice. Another question for you. How does it feel to be in a programming contest? Um, like, are you feeling nervous or excited or productive?
Yeah. Like for me, I'm like normally like really nervous during contests, but since like a coding contest is like a lot longer than another one, like than just like a test, it's a lot easier to get like carried away. So you really have to be like focused when solving a problem and like just like use your time wisely.
Cool. Um, what was your greatest success would you say, in your competitive programming career? Was there like a problem that you were really excited to solve, or was there like something that you achieved that was really exciting for you?
So like last year there was like this problem in like doing a silver contest that I was like really stuck on. And I remember spending like over 2 hours working on it. And then I got like AC like right when the contest ended. And that was just like really exciting for me.
So for those of us who aren't that familiar, what does AC mean?
AC just means that your program was accepted. So it just means that like your program was correct.
Nice. So that means it solved all test cases in time and stuff?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Last question that I have for you. How much time would you say that you spend on competitive programming per week?
Um, it really varies now that the school year has started. But in middle school I did like probably like 2 to 3 hours like every single day for like years ago. And if you already done like math competition or something, you probably don't need that much time. But I had like no experience with any like sort of problem solving competition. And so I really had to like just like study problem solving as well. But I say nowadays, I probably do just like 1 to 2 hours a day.
Nice. And you have time for all of that and missed all your like school stuff?
Well, I don't have much homework right now, so kind of.
Nice. Um, okay, does anyone else have any other questions for me or Ryan? So usually
Okay.
does a problem give an expected time complexity or is it just as fast as you can?
Okay, so in a problem, you're normally given just like a bunch of input variables. And so n might be up to 100,000 or like a million. And that kind of tells you how fast it should run. So like if you have like n like less than equal to a million, then you're expected to solve it in like around linear time. So that means that you should just have like basically one for loop from like 0 to like n, and that's like linear. And I won't go into it too much right now. But generally from the program bounds, you can tell approximately how fast your program should run.
Cool. So any other questions, please?
Yeah,
Of
I have a
course.
question.
Yeah.
What made you want to get into competitive programming? Like, what inspired you?
Um, like I said earlier, I just like saw a lot of YouTube videos. I'd say it was more just like boredom than um like I saw somebody like do really good at it and just wanted to do it myself.
Yep.
Nice. So boredom compounded with general interest.
Yeah. And just
Cool.
like it's really interesting to learn about like new techniques and algorithms when you're coding.
Mhm. Any other questions? Okay. So if anyone has any other questions,